Darth Sidious, Emperor Palpatine, was without a doubt the culmination of the Rule of Two era. Darth Bane's original plan to hide for as long as it took while the Sith evolved and grew into power turned out to be a smashing success. After 1,000 years of all of the Sith who had put their lives on the line in the legacy of the Baneite lineage, it paid off when Sidious was brought into the fold. Sidious would destroy the Jedi and establish rulership over the entire galaxy, exclusively controlled by the Sith. And it was here when Sidious ceased the Rule of Two, putting an end to it and beginning the plan that he had put in place ever since the beginning of his apprenticeship: the Rule of One. There are many of you wise scholars of the galaxy who would recognize this upon hearing it, yet may sense a discrepancy. Wasn't the Rule of One belonging to Darth Krayt almost 130 years after Sidious? Darth Krayt II would establish what is known as the Rule of One, and this would be the backbone of his order, with all other Sith serving the one Dark Lord. However, Sidious's Rule of One and Darth Krayt's One Sith are actually very different on a fundamental level. And in this holocron, we are going to talk about Sidious's Rule of One, how it was much different from both the Rule of Two and Krayt's One Sith, as well as essentially why this was the grand plan of Darth Sidious, and how he almost executed it perfectly. Darth Krayt's One Sith was an interesting take on the Sith organization. He followed the ancient ways of having one Dark Lord of the Sith and many underlings, but Krayt organized it far more effectively. Darth Krayt was a fiercely intelligent Dark Lord, and ensured that the Sith were fanatically loyal to him under no uncertain circumstances. In the One Sith, the followers of Krayt were taught blind obedience and absolute loyalty to the Dark Lord. Instead of plotting and infighting of the previous Sith organizations, they were all devoted to him. Interestingly enough, they would actually take a page out of the Jedi Order's book on how they were structured. Sith Masters trained a single apprentice. However, after their training was completed, apprentices were required to slay their masters as a test of loyalty to Krayt. Masters who deemed their apprentices ready would allow themselves to be killed, as long as it was on Darth Krayt's command. This allowed the Sith to reach massive numbers in their order without much threat to Krayt, despite what the holocron of Darth Bane had warned him of. There would come a time though when one of Krayt's underlings would betray and attempt to kill him, except Krayt had wisely prepared for this and managed to survive and get his revenge, placing himself firmly back on the mountaintop. In conclusion, the One Sith was basically a dark, warped mirror of the Jedi Order, appropriate since Krayt was a former Jedi, except of course for the Sith, the Dark Lord would replace the Grand Master, and an inner circle would replace the High Council. Many Sith were under him, each with their own apprentices who all followed a micro version of the Rule of Two, but on a mass scale, with each apprentice under Krayt getting stronger than the previous master. This made Krayt's order one of the most powerful in the history of the Sith. But what of Sidious? What was his Rule of One? Well, Sidious's Rule of One was fundamentally different. The One Sith was representative of the Sith Order itself being one, meaning they were all united as one Sith under one Dark Lord. However, the Rule of One meant there was literally only going to be a singular Sith Lord in existence. That being, of course, was Sidious. We find the meanings of the titles to be very intriguing, as the definition of the word rule changes when we go from two to one. There was the rule, meaning the law and the code of two, and then there was the rule, meaning the dominion or authority of the one. This is highly representative of exactly how Sidious planned to operate his new order. The plan of the Emperor was to essentially live forever using essence transfer or whatever dark side methods of immortality that he could reach, succeeding in what Darth Andedu was too weak and paranoid to accomplish, which was to rule over the Sith eternally. However, Palpatine's approach to ensuring that he would not be betrayed and destroyed by his underlings was much different than all other Sith in the past. Earlier we stated that the Rule of One by definition meant that there was only going to be a singular Sith in existence. Palpatine's plan was to basically train no other Sith whatsoever and establish himself as the final and only Sith in the galaxy. No more apprentices, no more successors, just Sidious. While this is not sound or sustainable, he had a plan put in place to train darkside acolytes, but only as cultists and followers, never true Sith. He would teach them all a mere fraction of his knowledge, so they'd be powerful enough to get stuff done, but nowhere near his level of mastery of the dark side. He would train many to serve as his hands, enforcers, and assassins to do his bidding, and when they became too powerful or a liability, he would betray and dispose of them. We can actually witness Darth Sidious testing out this philosophy using all of his underlings during the Clone Wars as guinea pigs. Maul would be the first test, trained as an apprentice. Sidious would tell him that he would accomplish great things, when in reality, Maul was merely an animal. An assassin to be used for his purposes, and then discarded. Though his defeat at the hands of Kenobi was premature, Maul's days were still numbered, and when Maul returned, Sidious left no loose ends. And next you have Dooku, who believed he had a true place amongst the Sith forever, and yet he too was a pawn, a preeminent apprentice to the real prize of Skywalker. Dooku was very powerful, but easily manipulated, and there was someone far younger and more powerful. And as long as there was, Dooku would always be expendable. Sidious allowed Dooku to have no amount of leverage over him, and when Sidious saw Ventress's power growing, he ensured that she was disposed of promptly. The only thing Dooku really had was Grievous, and Grievous was nothing to use against somebody like Sidious. Grievous was another animal like Maul, and nowhere close to a true threat. The point being though, Sidious is often criticized for quoting the Rule of Two but never actually adhering to it, as he had multiple assassins, apprentices, and hands, not to mention Inquisitors. However, Sidious was more actually exchanging apprentices for more powerful tools so he could get his ultimate prize in Skywalker. The only real hole in Sidious's plan for the Rule of One was Vader. In the end though, Vader was simply a tool as well, and just the final tool to the grand plan. Vader destroyed the Jedi Order, but then served as an enforcer as Sidious established the Rule of One in the background. This is in fact one of the reasons why the Emperor was so displeased with Vader hunting Jedi. He needed Vader to help him run the Empire so that Sidious could go about his business and establish his own grand plan, which in the canon lore happened on Exegol. In the canon Vader comic, Vader finds all the cultists and things occurring on Exegol and confronts Sidious about it, realizing that Sidious was planning something big for the future, which likely did not include Vader. Now, while the Rule of One as it's named is technically a Legends continuity story, the main idea and framework for the Rule of One still exists within the Sith Eternal in canon, so we can pretty much rope those two together as being the same thing. But that, my friends, was Darth Sidious's plan and the Rule of One, and how it differed from Darth Krayt's philosophy. In addition to this, our researchers have actually come up with a shocking theory pertaining to what Palpatine was really planning with Vader and Luke, especially when it came time for the Rule of One to be established. So if you'd like to hear our theory, then be sure to comment down below your thoughts on this holocron. As always, my friends and acolytes, may the Force be with you, and have a great day.
Just let me fall to my